Thank you. So, I was asked to do a little short presentation on the structure reform of Joomla. So I've prepared a few slides and it will take around 10 minutes to go through it. Fundamentally, then, behind the Joomla organization, it's called Open Source Matters, and it's an older organization by now, and it's changed over the years. First there was one leadership team, and then it split into 3 leadership teams, and Open Source Matters was sort of the board of directors, which had legal and financial issues. But then over the years the organization grew larger and larger, and in many places OSM had a wish that we went into a more mature structure that allowed some form of voting, some form of accountability, high degrees of transparency, and a lot of key factors and elements to a mature organization. It's no longer, the Joomla organization is no longer a young organization. It has some years on the back, and we are a large and global community. And we also wanted to address some of those things in the global community. But so basically, the history is that OSM tasked a working group that was called the Governance Working Group to find proposals for a new structure for the organization. And I was a member of the Governance Working Group for 2.5 years. And in those 2.5 years, we created 8 different proposals for Open Source Matters to create a new organization structure. Then at GN Beyond 2 years ago, I presented the proposals for Open Source Matters, and Open Source Matters, the board of directors, liked the proposals and wanted to continue to work with it from there. But then we informed the CLT and BLT of what was going on and what OSM wanted to do, and the CLT and BLT, the community leadership team and the production leadership team, said, well, we want to be a part of the new structure too, we want to be a part of the process. So then it was decided that 3 members from OSM, 3 members from CLT, and 3 members from BLT would form a structured working group, which role it was to work with a structure reform for all of Joomla, for all the leadership teams. And so another 2 years of work started, and now we are 4.5 years into the process. And personally, I think I'm more than 1,000 man-hours into working on this single element. So it's quite a lot of hours and hundreds and hundreds of written pages, and working with bylaws and preparing things for lawyers, and so it's a lot of work to do it. But finally, I think we are 2 to 3 months from having a new leadership election and a new structure. So at the next OSM Board of Directors meeting, we had the last one this Thursday, just before I traveled here. At the next meeting, we will implement the new bylaws, and then all of this structure reform is implemented. Then we have the legal foundation, and the new organization has been created. And then comes the first elections. Now, when the first elections comes, you will not see me running for the new leadership team, because I think after 4.5 years of this and all the hours I put in, my job is done. So new and fresh people can come in and take over. So I want to highlight on some of the things. Today we have the community leadership team. You can say we have a community department. Then we have the production leadership team and a production department, which means that most of the working groups today are under the CLT or PLT, and are thereby handled by those leadership teams. Then we have a few working groups under OSM, like the financial team, the legal team, the trademark team, but pretty much all other teams, except for those few, the last 2.5 years, in OSM we have sent those teams back under CLT or PLT where they belong. We also sent back the right of initiative for budgets and stuff like that. So on a higher level, we want to change the way we consider things instead of just having these 2 silos. So we will have 7 different departments, one for marketing, one for legal stuff, one for operations, etc. So we're trying to build more departments based on where the working groups naturally would belong. So they're in a group of working groups that are doing some of the same things. And then in this new structure reform, there will only be one leadership team. There will no longer be a CLT, a PLT, and an OSM. And part of the reasoning for doing that is that in many working groups the last couple of years, I was sitting as an OSM liaison. There would be a CLT liaison and a PLT liaison, and there may be 5 people in the working group. And I don't think that 5 people who are working in a working group need 3 leadership liaisons sitting and micromanaging and controlling what they do. We need to trust the working groups. We need to give mandate to the working groups. So the people volunteer to do something and they contribute and do the work, and they have the right of initiative, they have the freedom of doing the best of their jobs, and then a leadership team should be someone who is assuring the long-term direction, who's there to help people and facilitate. It shouldn't be people sitting in all the working groups and doing the work or micromanaging things. There's a big difference between doers and leaders, and I think historically we've had a lot of doers, and now we're trying to create leaders instead. So that's some of the ideas behind it. Now, we'll go into the next step. There's also part of having the right of initiative and part of feeling that you as a volunteer contributor to a working group has the right to suggest new ideas, has the right to do something, and it actually matters and your voice is heard. It's also the way you feel you belong to the community. We're working on multiple dimensions on that, but part of the new structure is that all the official working groups will have members, and those members will elect their own team leader. And then those team leaders in each department will elect one director of the board of the new leadership. So we have a broad representation where team members vote on their team leaders and they vote for the new directors of the board. So there will be one director for each of the 7 departments. Beyond that, there will be 4 officers, and the 4 officers will be elected across all of the departments. So you have a wide representation via voting, and then you have the specific one for each department. So we want to make sure that everyone feels that their voice is a part of the system, and that everyone has a vote and the opportunity and ability to be a part of the structure. But of course, voting and mandating also means that there's some degree of accountability. Historically, CLT, PLT, and OSM elected their own new members. So if I'm sitting in OSM, as I am, and let's say we have an election tomorrow, then I could elect 5 of my friends. It's never happened. It's been relatively wide, but there was no ways of ensuring accountability and transparency and all these things you'd like to see in a mature organization. So now in the new structure, it will actually be possible for all the team leaders, if more than 80% of them does not agree with leadership, they can actually kick out leadership and demand a new election. And then you're truly accountable. And it's the same pretty much in any country, any democratic country in the world. If the parliament members in a large majority does not agree with the direction the country is taking, then they can kick out the sitting government and demand a new election. And that is reverse angle back to accountability, so that the community members who are volunteering and contributing and voting are the ones who has the true power of the organization. That's really important for me, I think. So all of these things leads to one direction. We want the people who contribute and volunteer in the working groups to feel a bigger sense of owning a part of the system that really matter. So we decentralize a lot of things. We decentralize budgets. Budgets are no longer coming from the leadership teams. In the budget processes, each working group will come up with a budget proposal. They'll have objectives and goals and put numbers on it. Then they will submit all of their budget proposals from each working group. And then when it's finalized, it's the individual people who are line item owners who are responsible for their budgets. So no longer will there be a central function to sit and micromanage financials or what you should be working on. We want to decentralize the right of ownership into people who really want to do something with Joomla. Now, as a side story to that, historically, a little people have done a lot for Joomla. We want to change that so a lot of people can do a little for Joomla. But part of being a part of the global community and contributing to Joomla is also being aware of what sort of roles are opening, what's the vacant positions in the different working groups, and how can I actually get to help. So with the new structure reform, any open position in a working group will be publicly announced on the volunteers portal. So anyone in the world can see the vacant roles and can apply for a position. All roles in all working groups will have descriptions of what is needed for that role. So it's not personal. It's not because you're good friends with someone. It's when you apply for a role in a working group, it's because you fill out those requirements. You have experiences and knowledge you want to help out. Now, if you don't do that yet, but still want to help out, you can always volunteer in a working group. And part of that happens on our GLIP communication channel. I don't know how many of you in here are on GLIP, but Joomla has an agreement with GLIP. So basically, GLIP is giving us 5,000 users for free on GLIP. So that means that we have a Joomla GLIP. And if you're not on GLIP on Joomla, there's people in here online, you can get them to invite you. But basically, when you get into GLIP, you can see all the public channels of all the working groups, of the leadership teams, of conference teams, etc. And also, there's a national channel for most countries. So we have a Danish channel where Danish people join, and I imagine you have a Polish channel too, and then you can invite all the Polish people in there. So everyone here should be in that team, the Polish channel. And then when the 7th department, the local community department, is created after the next election, then each of the national working groups for each country will elect a team leader, and they will also vote when we select the new leadership. So they will also have a 7th representative on the board of directors. So I guess swap to this one, yeah. So, but why is the 7th department so important? Well, in Denmark, I'm very active in the global community. And there might be one or two other Danish people who's very active in the global community. But the rest of all the Danish Joomla people and Joomla community has never been active in the global community. So there's this, historically, there's this big jump from local to global. A lot of us are not English speaking natively. So we speak other languages, and not all of us has the same equal, easy access to English and using English. So there's some limitations, and maybe 4 or 5 years ago, to be a part of a working group, you should basically travel to the Joomla World Conference or to JAB and meet people a few times, and then maybe after a few years you would join a working group. But if you're sitting here, you have some experiences in life, and you work with something, and you're good at something, then why should you not be able to join a working group and help out now? So part of what we want to do with the 7th department and the local communities is that when all of you join the Polish channel, and you can see all the other channels, all the working groups and the different teams, then you can quickly see where you could join and help out. You could maybe join a channel and just read what's going on for a few weeks and get a feel for it, and slowly work your way from local to global. The big potential in that is that if we can activate the Polish community, the Danish community, the Italian community, the French community, and all the other local communities around the world, then we might be able to get 100 times more volunteers, 100 times more contributors, 100 times more developers. So the potential of the 7th department is perhaps one of the most revolutionary things in the history of our organization. We are beyond internationalization. We are beyond translations. We're moving a step further to actually pull people in from all the local communities in a more structured manner than earlier. Now, that ties back to the idea of going from a little people doing a lot to a lot of people doing a little. But at the same time, we've seen historically with some people doing everything they can, they burn out. So people very active for 2 or 3 years, and they burn out, and then they actually leave the community. They never come back. So we want to prevent that from happening. We want to prevent people from taking on too much work. And sometimes you see people promising they can do 100 things or 200 things, and then suddenly they're gone because they're a little embarrassed they didn't get to do all the things. So as part of the new structure reform, we're also limiting people. You can only be the team leader of one team. today we have people are team leaders of 5 or 6 teams, and you cannot do a good job. You do not do good for Joomla or for your fellow community members if you're a team leader of 5 or 6 teams. It's not realistic. So you're overcommitting, and the likeliness of you burning out and disappearing is far too big. So we want to make sure that people don't be a team leader of one team, and at the same time we want to make it very simple to join a team and get experience. So if you're not the team leader, or you're not an official member of the team that votes for the team leader, you can always volunteer for a team. So I was on the capital team, and then I sort of inherited the legal team a year ago or something like that. So now I do all contracts and agreements and stuff at Joomla too. So if there's a lawyer in the room or someone with legal experience, find me afterwards and I'll recruit you to the legal team. So I'm not a lawyer, and I don't really enjoy doing legal stuff. I think it's really boring, but someone has to do it. And I just happened to be the guy with the experience to do it who was in the room when that happened. So, but to join a team, you can always volunteer. And in the capital team, I'm actually a volunteer today. So I go, yeah, we have a team meeting tomorrow. And then I'll go, damn, I have another obligation. And then I instantly just think, well, that's okay, I'm just a volunteer. I've not committed myself into a membership role, into being there and fulfilling certain requirements. I'm just a volunteer. So the capital team, whenever there's new ideas up or new projects, anything, then if I have experience and knowledge to help out, I will help out. I will chip in. The new global banner system that is coming into all Joomla websites now was something I helped create. I did the first installations, I taught the first people and everything like that, but now it continues in its own life. But having the ability to be a part of the working group as a volunteer, but not committed, also means that it's easy to be a casual contributor. And maybe today, you know, in the local sports club, when the kids are playing football, you have these 5 parents who are always there, who does all the work and everything, and then all the other parents are never there. And then when those 5 parents, they burn out, then, oh, we can't practice football on Tuesdays any longer. So we have these few people doing a lot, but maybe we want to utilize all the people who can casually come in and help out for a weekend or a day or something. Consider if we could get all the local job members around the world to help out 8 or 10 hours a year casually, because it was okay to do what you could. The exponential power of those contributions would rock our world. It would make Joomla something completely different. So that's some of the main things. I don't have a lot more time to add, but there's also other things coming in, like an ombudsman structure where you can appeal things if you don't agree. There's an external advisory board coming in. The external advisory board will be made up of people who are not in the Joomla community, but in different organizations. Maybe we'll find one from Mozilla or other organizations that will be the advisory board. And then the advisory board has one right. They can put an item on the agenda of the next board of directors meeting. So if the advisory board sees something going on in our community or in the world, they can put it on the agenda of the next board of directors meeting. And then it will go into the meeting notes, it will come out, and it will be a part of the history of what happens. So having someone looking from the outside in at our community and seeing and coming with ideas, and maybe helping us to also hold ourselves in check is not a bad idea. But beyond all of this and structural reform, in the last 2 years we've made clear financial policies, clear policies in a lot of places. We're doing standard contracts, we're doing standard letters, we're trying to mature and streamline the organization. And the point in all of this, the point in all of the structure work, and I'm a die-hard structuralist, I love structure, is that you might get a bad leader. That happens. It always happens. But if you have the right structures, then the structure will help to correct the problem. So the next leader will be the right leader again. So it's also working on assuring that the organization in Joomla as a whole has the best possible future chances of thriving and being a real global community. So that was it for now. Expect to hear a lot more about it the next 2 or 3 months. The open nominations will come, and all teams need to register with a team leader, and actual elections will happen too. But what you need to do, And now I'm telling you all, you're voluntold, you need to join the Polish channel. Start looking at the other channels, see if you can contribute. There's a lot of teams who could really use some people who could contribute with things or experiences or ideas. And don't be afraid to get your feet wet, just do it. And it's okay if you don't speak perfect English. I mean, most people actually don't. Even our English people don't speak very good English at times. So just jump into it and do it. And go to Glib and be a part of the global community. Let's start there. So that's the first half of my presentation, and I'll get to the second half. So, and that's an English quote from Monty Python, I believe, and also something completely different. So we'll just phase into the future of the internet. Or as I call it, from CMS to WPM. CMS means Content Marketing System. WPM means which would be WMP actually, Web Marketing Platform. But hey, I don't speak English natively, so don't, yeah. So the future of content management, what does that mean and who am I? Well, we'll start with me. I'm the CEO and founder of RedWeb and Red Component, Red Host, North Development Group, and a lot of other things. I've been serving the last 2.5 years as Open Source Matters Board of Directors, and I'm in boards of local regional IT forums and different things. I'm an advisory board member of 7 IT and Web Education, so spend a lot of time working with educational systems and the future of our craftsmanship. So, but let's dig into content marketing. So, and I thought the keynote session was 45 minutes, but it was only 30, and now I talked too much in the first half, so now maybe I have 20 minutes. So I took out some slides to try and make it quick. So let's see. So what is content marketing? I assume that everyone here, or almost everyone here, knows what content marketing is. But fundamentally, historically, we were pushing people. We're sending salespeople out and pushing people. And then suddenly there are so many things in the world always pushing you that it started to not work, and we figured out we need to pull people in. We need to pull them into. And how do you pull people in? You need something interesting, something that adds value. And that's basically where content marketing were born. We want to create some content, whether it be newsletters on websites, that can pull in people because it has meaning for them. And once we have people coming to us, then we have the opportunity of selling them our services, our products, or our story, or whatever it is. So fundamentally, there's this old saying, content is king, and then I add to it, but context is best, and we'll get more into that. So, search engines. What's interesting is perhaps not what people are searching for on Google, but the fact that they are searching. Because when people search in Google, they use it to find something meaningful on the internet. There's so much crap on the internet. So people will use 3 or 4 or 5 words in Google today. People actually started, the last couple of years, people started writing questions to Google. How do I find the road to this house on a Wednesday afternoon when it rains? And sometimes you see this with 8 or 10 words in the search phrase. Originally, people used 1 word, then 2 now, 3, 4, 5. And you see sentences with 6, 7, 8, 10 words in them. So people are starting to use search engines differently, and that reflects a way of thought that people are not finding what they think is meaningful in the search engine. There's a billion SEO blog sites built on WordPress out there with fake content. And the only purpose is to pull in people and get them to the right places. They call them China link farms, and built on WordPress, and they produce millions and millions of links. So Google has worked on that with Pan and with Penguin, trying to remove all those bad pages from the results so you get more meaningfulness. Fundamentally, Google makes a living of delivering meaningful content to all of you. If Google does not deliver meaningful results, they cannot sell the AdWords, or you will not click them, and Google will not earn money. So Google's business concept, business principles, is very simple. Google needs to make your life more meaningful. So, when we look at content marketing and search engines, we have to consider why are people using the search engine? What are they thinking when they start typing something? And what sort of search are they doing? If we take that and we understand the user, and we then work with content marketing on the other side, and we create content that reflects the thought process of the people who are searching, then our chances of getting good results on Google are a lot better. And when people find our pages organically, they will buy for more money, they will convert higher, etc., etc. So content marketing is here to stay. Content marketing is what everyone should be doing now if they're not doing it yet. But what about tomorrow? And we say Joomla is very good with content marketing. Brilliant. Content marketing, you make website houses with a lot of landing pages, different tunnels into different segments, and it's very easy to do. But what's the future? That's a really interesting question. So I have an example here from a client. This is in Danish, so good luck reading that. But it says, my boat has gotten osmosis, and if you own a boat, I don't know anything about boats, but I have a lot of clients in the industry. So, and if you own a boat, at some point it might get this osmosis disease under it or something. And then you need some products and you need some knowledge about how you treat it. This happens every year. So every year in Denmark, there's 500 boat owners who has boats that get osmosis. Out of those 500 boat owners, the 400 or so will go to Google and type, my boat has gotten osmosis, what do I do? Or how do I fix osmosis on my boat? So they will find this result as number one in Google for one of our clients. They go to that page, they read about osmosis, what does it mean for your boat, how can you fix it, and here is the link to the products you can buy to fix it. That article took our client maybe 40 minutes to write, and in the first 2 years, I think, yeah, they earned a lot of money selling products and that. That's probably the best 40 minutes spent on writing a Joomla article in a long time. So it pays off and it works. So how do you improve your content beyond content marketing, beyond making landing pages for segments and doing all of that? Well, you move into pattern-based responsiveness. And what's pattern-based responsiveness? Well, it's the idea that by understanding your users beyond what they need and what they think before they visit your website, then when they get to your website, they actually show certain patterns. If you start to analyze those patterns, you will see some clear tendencies. So you will see different groups of users forming. Traditionally, we have some archetype examples. You have the browsing woman who comes into the website and clicks on images. Never clicks on text links, never uses filtering, never goes into the technical aspects and stuff, clicks the images. Then on the other side, you have the engineer, the guy who's around 45, engineer, he never clicks images. He clicks the anchor text, he uses all the filtering, gets the additional technical information, specifications and everything. So these are two archetype outliers. There might be technical women, and there might be visually browsing men, two of them, it's just archetypes. But they're interesting, because when you're building a website with both of these users into it, it requires a lot of you to build a website so it adds meaningfulness to both of these users. So you have to alternate the experience for these people. To be able to do that, it requires that you see the patterns of your users to understand that and to differentiate the way you build your website. Now, if we have age and generation gaps to it, we have a young generation, we have a middle generation, and we have an older generation. The older generation will only read stuff, they don't watch videos, never. So they go in and they expect to read it. And if it resembles the reality of a newspaper article, then you're not doing it all that bad. Then you have the middle generation. They will read first, and then if it's good, they might click a video and look at the video. They might, I belong to the middle. So, they have the young generation. As I used to call them, the YouTube kids. So they come to your website, they don't read shit. They don't. They click the video, and if the video is fantastic, they might read the first 3 or 5 lines of your text. So how do you reach people like that? How do you make one landing page for 3 so different behaviors? Again, you need to understand the users, understand the patterns. and respond to that. Today in responsive web design, we respond to viewports, to device monitor sizes. So you have a small screen, you have a medium screen, you have a big screen, you have a 4K screen, a 5K screen. But it's sort of simplistic, right? Yeah, you have this much area, now we'll put stuff on it. But what if you have someone who's looking for a very simple way of communicating in big visual images that's on a 5K screen? Do we then fill it up with everything, or do we still keep it simple? So the premises is that it's actually more important to be communicating to people in the right way, based on who they are and how they think, than it is to communicate through them in the right viewport. Of course you should also do that, but it's more simplistic, this is more advanced and more interesting. So, I'll just get to the next slide. So, what if we combine content marketing and pattern-based responsiveness and understanding the users? Again, Google has built one of the most successful companies on the planet by creating meaningfulness for people. It's very simple proposition in the company. So if it works for Google, I'll bet it also works for all of us, right? So how do we get there? Contextual marketing. So what is contextual marketing? Contextual marketing is the notion that when someone visits your website, then based on their behavior, on the patterns we recognize, on their history, on where they're coming from, which country they're coming from, by putting in all different factors and identifying and aggregating those data, we start to form different patterns we can recognize, and then we alternate and we start to change our websites. So a website will no longer be a static website. And that's sort of where we have a challenge also with CMSs, but I'll touch on that a little later. So we want to have a future web platform where we're able to have the same landing page have 20 different ways of being put together, depending on how and which users coming in and what they've done before and what we can know of that user. So we'll just yeah, maybe I should add too, contextual marketing today is primarily used in email marketing. So if you use Globase or MailChimp or something, then a user signs up or a user buys something in a web shop, and then that is sent to MailChimp with a little tag that says, this user bought bananas. And then for years and years to come, when you send out newsletters in MailChimp, you will send the bananas one out to this guy. But it's a static thing, it's not a live thing, there's no integration to the business intelligence part of it. There is in the newest versions, but no one is really using it not yet. But for most people, content marketing today is email marketing. And that's only a small part of it. People that use marketing automation platforms like Infusionsoft or HubSpot will focus a lot on the emails too. Well, you can send out emails. Emails is fine, and then they focus on social media, but all of that doesn't touch the website. So I see companies who daily post on LinkedIn as part of their content marketing strategy, but what if LinkedIn changed their policies tomorrow and you lose 3 years in history and your own website doesn't have anything? Is that a plausible or realistic strategy to apply for content marketing? It isn't. So we want to put things back into the website. If you create a content page on the website, then we want it to go to the social media. Then we want parts of it to go out to the email marketing. But we want to get people into the website because that's the only place we have full access to the data and analytics. That's the only place we can measure what people are doing, and we can identify their patterns, and we can react on that and create something meaningful for the user. So I'll use an example. A lot of fine words, but let's try and get concrete. This is a mom, a Danish mom sits in Denmark. She goes on Google and thinks, oh, we'd like to go on vacation this year. Let's go to Poland. So, and the mom, she has kids. So she wants to go to Poland and she wants to find a place near a theme park where you can take your kids. So she will go to Google and she will start Googling, and then she will get into a landing page. And that happens today. So she gets down to the landing page, and now we know, okay, she's landed on sub-level 5 on the landing page for taking your kids to the theme park, And so now we actually have a pattern. We actually have enough information to know that with all plausibility, this is actually a children family who's from Denmark, who's looking to have a vacation in Poland, and they would like to do something with their kids. But today we just give the same story to everyone. But what if we use that information to change the experience? So now when she browses around on the website of the theme park in Poland, all of the information, all of the communication will be based on the fact that she's a mom of a children family that wants to go on vacation in Poland. We have the needed information. So, can we do it in Joomla? Not yet. Not yet. You can't really do it in any CMS in itself. Not yet. But that's why this is an inspirational keynote pointing to the future. In 4 to 5 years, 3 to 5 years, everyone will be building dynamic websites that will change like this. They will be flexible and they will accommodate the requirements of the user. Because fundamentally, whatever you're doing when you're in the business of communicating with people, if you're not communicating on the premises of the people you're communicating to, then you're not succeeding. So everyone will be building these websites in 4 to 5 years, and fantastically, that also means that, I mean, WordPress is not working on this. They're doing something else, something more simple. They can't do it. Their architecture is not possible to do some of this. And so is this an opportunity for Joomla too? I think it is. But can you do it in Joomla today? No, you can't. So not without using third-party components, and of course I work with that too. So how do we make the CMS to a web marketing platform? We say today everything is static. It's dynamic, but it's static. All CMSs pull out pages from the database, and you can alternate modules and stuff like that. And Joomla is probably one of the most flexible CMSs at all. I mean, anyone who's ever tried to migrate a WordPress site to a new version and rebuild the template without any template abstraction layers, but hard coding, realizes what architecture means when you work with something. So Joomla is very flexible and very dynamic, but Joomla is still static. You create a page and everyone sees that page. So it's the same experience for all people who visit the website, and that's across all CMSs. So as I write, we communicate equally uneven to everyone. So it's the same story. Let's say you go to my website, and I see you come from Poland. So I put up a little sign that says in Polish, "Hi, welcome to my website." That little module in Polish, when you visit my website, would make you smile. And that's all that's needed, because now I'm communicating to you, and we're already starting a relation. So now I have to talk really quickly. So how do we change the mindset? We need to record the user behavior. We need to understand the users. We need to create meaningfulness for the user. And some of these disciplines are complex. Some of this also leads to machine learning and automated responses and all of that. So, but fundamentally, the easiest place to start is with call to actions. If we talk about Joomla, then the first place to start is modules, I would say. Let's say you load an article page, and then the modules you show on the side of it, the call to action modules, you start to differentiate them based on which people are visiting the website. So you can use different things to do that, but I have a few examples. Personalized call to action. Let's say you're a Polish company that has 10 different sales offices in Poland. Then you start using geo-IP, and you can 60, 70, 75% of people can identify why geo-IP to a city. So if you do that, then maybe instead of having a button that says contact, you will look where people are from in Poland, and you will put the local person they should be talking to out in the call to action module. So they get the face of the guy they will actually be working with in the years to come. They can see him, his face and his first name and his direct phone number and his email. That means that when people call him, they already know him. They know his face, they already start the relation. We're putting ourselves in a position where pulling people in will become easier than ever. So that could be the first example. The second example would be relevant modules. If we go back to the theme park, then here we have the same page, but one is the most child-friendly, the other is the most extreme. So one is a mother who's coming in a place where we can identify that behavior. The other is some young people or maybe a dad that comes in and has a completely different way of thinking. So I'll hurry up with our third example, product marketing. Today, if you go to a web shop, then if they know who you are, they will show you products you might buy. So traditionally, you look at the last 2 years of orders, and then if you're a member of a shopper group of monkeys, then we will show you bananas, because all the monkeys in our web shop the last 2 years have been buying bananas. But what if monkeys start to buy oranges tomorrow? Then we have to wait 12 months and 1 day before we start showing oranges. But maybe we shouldn't care if it's monkeys. We should look at how they're using our website. And then based on how they use our website, we will start to show them oranges instead. So something like proposed or suggested products in web shops is also an easy place to start. If people come in and show a certain pattern of behavior, then let's follow that. If they come in and they look at a specific color of a furniture or whatever it is, then let's propose they get they buy those things in the same color, the same product, the same material, so that it's following the same storyline. So that was sort of my comment. How long? 30 seconds? Less? Okay. So that's it, and I took out one slide, but I think it worked, so we'll go to questions. So any questions? My prediction is that right now, most people do not know this is where things are moving. I held my first session at Champion last year about it, moving into it, and then this year in Barcelona again, to try and get people to understand this is where we're moving, this is the future. And there's no doubt this is the future. And interestingly enough, then everyone in the planet is doing external integrations, but they're end up to marketing automation, etc., etc., etc. But none of them can do landing pages on your website. None of them gives you all the data. So there's huge potential here. There's an enormous potential in moving into this position in the market. So it will be how everything runs in the future. So it's not a question, because we can see, I've clients who's using these systems right now, we can see that the output is 5, 8, 10 times as many conversions. So when you have 100 visitors to your website, you maybe reach 1 or 2, but the last 98 just flows through and you have no effing idea. Let's say that you are able to engage 20% instead of 2%, then you will tenfold the effect of your website. And trust me, if you build websites for people, for customers, and they get 10 times higher results out of the websites you build for them, then you have a very meaningful partnership with that client. Very meaningful partnership. So, because the potential is so big, and at some point, the World Wide Web as we know it is still a young child. It's not very mature, and we're getting to maturity. This is part of getting to maturity of creating real outputs. So I think realistically, we have an extension that works with contextual marketing in real time. I saw 2 days ago another guy actually launched a small module extension where you can start to control your modules based on the country and IP and stuff like that. So now we have 2 people in the Joomla community who's working in that direction. We're doing the big one and he's doing the module one. But slowly we will see more and more and more people. And maybe he's doing that one because he attended my session last year in January, I'm not sure. But by preaching about the future, by sharing the idea and the vision of where we're moving, hopefully we can inspire more and more people to work into this direction. It's part of the very important area where Joomla could be, because let's face it, doing 5-hour websites instead of templates is not a very fun market to be in. There's a gazillion people doing it, and it's not fun. It's not fun when you're paying your rent or buying food for your kids either. So let's move to something more interesting. And I think that's where it is. So in the next 2, 3, 4 years, I think we will see this really hitting the markets all over, and hopefully Joomla too. And maybe some of you will contribute ideas and stuff to that. So I think that's the last question. We're out of time. Yeah, we had one? No,